Today it's Plugin Friday, and we are going to talk about mastering with Ozone 9 that came out a couple of months ago. So I guess I'm a bit late to the party. But like we say in French, vaut mieux tard que jamais. Hey, what's going on? Chris here from MIXDOWN Online. Now, if by any chance this is your first time here on the channel, feel free to subscribe to the channel and to click the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And for all of you, if you enjoyed this video and you think that the video is helpful, share and like. All right, so now let's talk Ozone 9 from IZotope. That again came out not too long ago. Now, to be honest with you, I am completely new to Ozone. So it was quite interesting to work with this software for mastering. I kind of like it, to be honest with you, and I'll show you why in this video. So let's jump in directly in CUBASE. And this is how I'm going to work with Ozone today within my DAW. This is something that you can do if you're using CUBASE or any other types of DAWs. You can load Ozone 9 as a plugin, as an insert on your channel and do your mastering directly from your DAW. Or you can use Ozone as a standalone software also and do your entire mastering process directly in Ozone without going into a DAW. So what we have here with Ozone, we have the main GUI, okay, the main window that is actually resizable, which is quite nice. Okay, so this is something that I appreciate a lot. So on top we have the modules, okay, like EQ. There's two EQs, okay, which are basically the same EQs, and every EQ will have a stereo mode or mid-side or left and right mode, okay, which is very practical, especially during mastering. Right now at the moment it is a very clean window, but if we click on that small icon on the top left, we have access to all the parameters of the EQ itself right here at the bottom. Okay, but if you want to have a clean window, you can just deactivate that. Okay, so now we also have some dynamics. Okay, so like in the compressor, we have an exciter, and something cool that I'm going to talk about in this video is the imager, which is very nice. And there's low-end focus. Stay tuned for this one. That one is pretty nice too. And match EQ is awesome. And master rebalance. This is something very, very special and unique. So make sure you keep on watching until we get to that part of the video. And we also have at the bottom all vintage types modules like vintage compressor, vintage EQ limiter, and also a vintage tape to add that type of tone to your sound. Okay, so those are all available on top. You can load as many modules as you want, but only one of each at a time. Okay, so if you load the exciter right away, it is not going to be available to add a second time around. So let's start our mastering session with Master Assistant. Okay, what Master Assistant will do is to assist you basically to set up a good starting point. It is not going to master for you. Working with a software like Ozone is not going to master your song by itself. It is going to provide you tools that will help you to get to a starting point and move on afterwards. And this is what Master Assistant will do. First step here is to choose from modern modules or vintage types modules. Okay, so I'm going to select modern. And then second, we need to figure out the loudness and EQ settings. So we can select manual, which is what I'm going to choose. But there's also reference that can also be selected. Now with reference, you will need to load a reference track to be able to use that feature. And that will analyze that track and then apply those settings to your mix, basically. So you can get close to that reference. So I'm going to keep that to manual for now because, there's another feature, like I was saying, Match EQ, that actually will do a very nice job without doing it directly here, in the Master Assistant. So I'm going to keep that to manual, and then I'm going to choose the intensity. Now, the intensity is going to be the amount of loudness that you are going to target. The low intensity is going to target a loudness of -14 LUFS. Medium will target a level of -12 LUFS. And then high is going to target -11 LUFS. Then we have to choose between streaming or CD. Now, if you master a song that is only going to go on streaming platforms, just select streaming. That will actually set up the maximum ceiling out of your limiter, your maximizer actually. So by selecting streaming, your ceiling is going to be set up at a default value of -1 dB. And for CD, you have a bit more room to play with. That will bring that up to -0.3. Okay, so between -0.3 to -0.1 dB is good if you plan on burning your song on a CD. But if you're only planning on uploading on streaming services, just go with streaming and bring that ceiling down to a maximum of -1 dB. Then we need to click on next, but before then it says for the best results, play the loudest portion of your track. Okay, so this is what we are gonna do here. I'm just gonna set that up so I play the loudest part of my song, and I'm gonna go back on Ozone and click on next and play the song. All right, so now I click on accept. And there you go. Now I have my starting point. I have these suggestions that Ozone is giving me. As far as EQ goes, like we can see here, I have a bit of a boost on the top end portion of the spectrum, and also a bit of a cut to tame down the low end of the signal. And also it added a dynamic EQ. I love dynamic EQs. And they're just very useful to get give a bit more control to some frequencies that might be problematic in the mix. So very useful in mixing and also in mastering. So I have some dynamic EQ that takes care of controlling the top end of the signal, the high mids, a bit of the mids, and a bit of the low mids. And then I have my maximizer, and the ceiling is set up to -1 dB because I selected streaming. And this is what it looks like, basically. Very straightforward. Something cool, though, that I have here is learn threshold. This is something that you can do manually. You can target yourself a loudness level and in LUFS, and that is going to set your maximizer according to what your custom target is. But we already did that with Master Assistant, so I'm going to keep it as is. Now at the bottom we have bypass and gain match. Bypass will bypass all the modules at once. And gain match will actually gain match your on-process signal with the full processed signal. So let's start by listening to a before and after of what I have as a starting point without activating the gain match. So we can hear the difference it makes tone-wise and with loudness as well. Okay, cool. So now let's do the same, but with gain match activated. So with gain match, we have the difference between the unprocessed and processed signal as far as the tone goes, but the gain stays the same. So very practical. So if I was to use Master Assistant, that would be my starting point. I wouldn't make that mastering the final master. I would definitely just go down and dive deeper and figure out a few things and just tweak a few things. Because there's right now, if I listen to it, I like it as a starting point, but there's some stuff that I would definitely have to work on. All right, so let's start by looking at the imager. I was telling you about the imager, which is a very, very nice module. So we can divide that in different bands. And I'm just going to play around the stereo image of those different bands. Let's have a quick listen and see how that sounds like. Cool. That sounds pretty good. I'm just going to move my imager before the last limiter. Let's listen to that again. Cool, very subtle, but I like what it does. So it gives me a lot of control over all those different bands to work with the stereo image of those bands. So this is the imager. And now you can also solo those bands if you want to monitor those individually. That can also be done. Okay, now let's look at the low-end focus module, which is also very nice. This will actually focus on the low end of the signal. If you want to add a bit more punch to a muddy low end, that will actually do the job pretty well. So let's try this out. Okay, so I have my parameters at the bottom right here, where I can choose from smooth or punchy, and also the amount of contrast, if I want to just reduce that contrast or increase the contrast of the punch setting or the smooth setting. And then we have the makeup gain, if we want to add a bit more gain or reduce the gain depending on what we do with the punchy contrast. So now the cool thing is you can also solo that band of frequencies. And you can also click on listen. You unsolo that band of frequencies. You click on listen, and that will monitor what you are adding to the signal. That's pretty interesting. All right, so let's try this out. I'm just going to increase a bit of punch, and then I'm going to play with my makeup gain here. Interesting. Okay, I'm not sure I would need it for this master, but it is a very, very cool feature, especially like I was saying earlier, if you end up mastering a song that has a very muddy low end, that feature can be useful in that case. And also in the mix situation, that can also be cool on a drum bus, for example, or on the bass bus, or whatever. There's some stuff that can be done in mixing as well using that low end focus. Anyways, it's pretty interesting. Now, something else that we have here, and I told you about that earlier in the video, is the master rebalance. Now, this is a bit crazy, to be honest with you. So what we have here, we have 3 different focus instruments, okay, listed down below: vocals, bass, and drums. So what that is going to do is to focus on one of those instruments by isolating them with a kind of artificial intelligence type of thing going on, which is very well done, okay? So let's have a quick listen, and I'll give you my impressions afterwards. It is pretty cool, you know. I kind of like it if I use it in a very subtle way, but it's kind of doing a very good job to isolate that vocal and to have a bit more control over the volume of the vocal, to be able to reduce it or to increase it just a bit. So if I'm in a mastering situation where I need to bring the vocal up a bit, that can be very, very useful. But if you get to the end of your mastering session and you need to just increase that vocal way too loud, you can use that to get to your point, but afterwards I would say go back in the mix, fix that in the mix, and bring that back in mastering, because doing that in the mix is going to do a way better job. But, you know, I'm going to have to say that to use that as a tool to fix a problem in mastering where you don't need to overdo it, it will do a very good job. Okay, let's try it on the bass. Yeah, that's impressive. It's very, very well done. And the beauty of this is that this feature, okay, that gain can be automated if you're using Ozone 9 within your DAW. And this is cool. And that's one of the advantages of using it in the DAW, where you can automate a lot of the parameters of Ozone, like this gain feature out of the master rebalance. Now, the last feature I want to look at is the match EQ. I have a mix that has already been mastered by Ian Shepherd. So what I want to do here is try to just match that EQ, the EQ curve, to what Ian did in the mastering, just to test it out. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to match it with Match EQ. Let's first load the reference. So I need to click on the reference, and this is where I'll be able to load a reference track. So if you do this for the first time, you are going to see that window. You just need to click on the plus sign, load your reference track. Ozone will load it, and there you go. You have all the different portions of the track that you can choose from, or the full track if you want. So I'm just going to select this one, and if I want to monitor that that signal, what I need to do is just to click on reference AB. Okay, and once a reference is activated, when I'm going to click on play, this is what I am going to monitor. Okay, so now I'm going to go, I'm just going to click, I'm just going to deactivate reference. I'm going to go back to my project in CUBASE. I'm just going to make sure I'm at the same starting point here. Okay, I'm just going to make sure I'm playing the same portion of the mix. Okay, I think I am. Next, what I need to do, I need to capture both signals. Okay, so first I'm going to capture the signal of the reference by clicking on capture, but I need to make sure that reference is active. Click on capture, click on play. All right, so once I'm done, I'm going to do the same with my my mix. All right, so now I'm going to click on stop. So what I have here is I have both frequency spectrum of the mix and also the reference mastered track in my case. In orange, I have the mastered track, and in blue, I have my unprocessed mix. And then I have the suggestion that Ozone is giving me as far as the EQ curve goes. So I have a bit of a boost in the low end and a bit of a boost on the top as well, around 12K, 11 or 12K, and a bit of a dip, okay, in the mid-range. So what I can do next is to fine-tune that to my taste. So if I want to add a bit more of that curve, I just increase the amount, and that will bring that amount up. Okay, so let's bring it up just a bit, and then I can smooth the frequencies or sharpen the frequencies if I want to have them a bit more detailed. Okay, so this is up to me. So let's bring that at around 30%, and we're just gonna compare to see how that sounds like compared to the mastered version. Interesting. It's not the same, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get close to it. And again, it's a starting point. It's not necessarily made to be your final EQ curve, okay? But it's just to get closer to your reference, again, as a starting point. So that is actually very well done and a tool that can be useful. All right, my friends, so this is going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, share and like. And if you want to try out Ozone, now the one I was working on today is Ozone Advanced. Okay, so I think there's 3 versions of Ozone. There's the basic, standard, and advanced, if I'm correct. But I'm going to leave the link in the bottom section of this video. And if you want to try it out, the link is also going to be there for a free trial. If you have any questions or comments, leave everything down below. And I'm going to wish you a happy weekend. I'm going to see you next time. Bye-bye.